So, excuse me. Greetings, friends. The question was asked in the last few weeks from some online students to describe what it looks like to live your life within the framework of the Eightfold Path. What's that experience like? And in particular, one a female student asked would it look differently if you were living in a monastery separated from the world, or out in your living a life out in the world with the world's demands. And certainly externally it would appear quite different, but internally the experience would be very, very similar. And it also should be mentioned here that most monasteries are pretty busy places, meaning that the monks and the nuns are not just sitting in meditation or listening to talks day after day. They have many, many duties just to simply maintain the monastery. So in that way, there's a certain amount of busyness, no matter what type of life we're living, whether it's within the structure of a monastery or out in the world. What unites the two is the Buddha's teachings. And so I thought that this sutta particularly addresses that. What does Dhamma practice look like? What does it feel like? And how do you do it in a very practical way? And of course, that is rooted in ongoing mindfulness as the Buddha teaches mindfulness, which is to hold in mind the factors of the Eightfold Path. So this is from the Bhaddekaratta Sutta. The Buddha was staying at Savatthi at Jita's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. And there he addressed the monks and nuns. Friends, I will teach you the meaning of an auspicious day. And so right off the bat, that word, any day, I mean, the word auspicious, any day that we are living it within the framework of the Eightfold Path and inclining our minds in thought, word, and deed towards awakening is an auspicious day. It's in fact, I would say it's the most auspicious day we could have. This relates slightly to the talk from last night, which was on the virtuous factors of the Eightfold Path: right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And the talk that I gave referenced the Rahulavada Sutta, where the Buddha teaches his son the importance of simple and direct mindfulness of right speech and right action. So the Buddha continues in this sutta: do not chase after the past or project your thoughts on the future. So the Buddha is simply saying that you must be mindfully present with your life as your life unfolds. Do not get entangled with the world. Be mindful only of what is occurring. And that really relates and is saying the same thing in a slightly different way to, again, be mindful of what's occurring. Don't be distracted by the worldly events, even though you're immersed in them. Maintain your calm and peaceful mind. Relate to this next statement by the Buddha: free of distraction, well concentrated, develop compassion informed by wisdom. And of course, that well concentrated points to the proper use of meditation to deepen concentration. The Buddha continues: mindfully engage with what is skillful. What skills does the Buddha teach? Each factor of the Eightfold Path are the skills that the Buddha teaches, and the only skills the Buddha teaches as far as awakening. Meaning that when we establish and maintain the Eightfold Path, we don't get distracted by other doctrines, other ideas, what other people may be doing and calling that Buddhist practice or spiritual practice. We stay well focused within the only framework the Buddha taught. To have an auspicious day is to live within the framework of the Eightfold Path. The Buddha continues: the future is uncertain and death occurs equally for all, meaning we best get to it if we want to awaken in this lifetime, and we certainly can. The Buddha taught that we can awaken in this lifetime, that we must get to it and be mindful. And this relates to, I always think of the Bhiya Sutta, that none of us know when the end is going to come for any of us. But what we do have is this moment. And let's use this moment and each moment that unfolds to awaken. And again, the way that we can ensure that that's what's taking place is to live our lives within the framework of the Eightfold Path. Those who remain mindfully engaged with life as life occurs throughout the day have had a truly auspicious day. What could be more clear and direct than that? To be mindfully engaged with life as life occurs throughout the day. Again, bringing the framework of the Eightfold Path into our moment-by-moment life. The Buddha continues, and how does one avoid chasing after the past? One does not get carried away with the delight that in the past I had such a form, in the past I had such a feeling, in the past I had such a perception, in the past I had such a fabrication, in the past I had such a consciousness. This is called not chasing after the past. So those of you that understand the five clinging aggregates will see that that's exactly what the Buddha is referring to, is to each of the aggregates in that and not being caught up in that in a self-referential way. In fact, what it means is, in a literal way, letting go of the past from a self-referential point of view and living fully present, understanding the ongoing development of becoming, whether it's becoming awakened or becoming further ignorant. If it's framed by the Eightfold Path, the mind is naturally inclined towards awakening. The Buddha continues. And how does one not project their thoughts on the future? One does not get carried away with delight that in the future I might have such a form. In the future I might have such a feeling. In the future I might have such a perception. In the future I might have such a fabrication. In the future I might have such a consciousness. This is called not projecting thoughts onto the future. Again, relating directly to the five clinging aggregates, which the Buddha used to describe in a very simple way. And he always referenced the five clinging aggregates after describing the ongoing nature of suffering and where it arises from. And he would conclude that statement by saying, in short, the five clinging aggregates are suffering, meaning the five clinging aggregates, again, are not something mystical or magical and really not all that hard to understand. They simply describe the ongoing experience of suffering, the personal experience of suffering, excuse me. And now the Buddha continues with, and how does one become entangled with the world? An uninstructed ordinary person, lacking understanding of the Dhamma, sees form as self, or the self as form. Again, relating directly to the five clinging aggregates of form, feeling, perceptions, mental fabrications, and ongoing consciousness, meaning thinking rooted in ignorance. An uninstructed ordinary person lacking understanding of the Dhamma sees form as the self, or the self as form. Confused, they see feeling as self, or the self as possessing feeling. And how a mind that is rooted in ignorance is constantly describing themselves as by how they feel, and often blaming other people or the world, the events, for creating their feelings, when in fact, any feeling that is rooted in agitation is also rooted in ignorance of Four Noble Truths. Confused, they see their perceptions as self, or the self as possessing perceptions. Confused, they see their fabrications as self, or their self as fabrications. Confused, they see their consciousness as self, or their self as their consciousness. This is what is meant by becoming entangled with the world. Again, relating suffering directly to the five clinging aggregates. And so the Buddha is describing how to develop an auspicious day, how to have a truly auspicious day, by bringing the overarching framework of the Eightfold Path so that we can recognize what's occurring moment by moment. And in the moment, if we're continuing a life rooted in ignorance, to recognize the I-making in each moment and where it's coming from. And one of these, or all five of these factors or aspects of or aggregate of the five clinging aggregates. Then the Buddha teaches how to be disentangled, or how to recognize when we're not entangled with the world. And how is one not entangled with the world? A follower of the Dhamma. Now, it must be remembered that just because something's called Dhamma or Dharma doesn't necessarily mean that it is what the Buddha taught. The Buddha taught a very specific path, meaning the Eightfold Path. And how is one not entangled with the world? A follower of the Dhamma who is well versed and well trained in the Dhamma points to a very important aspect of the Dhamma. One must be well versed. We have to know what it is, and we must train ourselves in developing that in order for us to actually have an auspicious day. One who is well versed and well trained in the Dhamma does not see the form itself. So we're from that understanding and application of the Dhamma, we stop self-referential views. Does not see the form as self or the self-possessing form. With right view established, they do not see feeling as a self or the self-possessing feelings. With right view established, they do not see perceptions as self or the self as possessing perceptions. With right view established, they do not see, excuse me, a little bit hoarse. They do not see fabrications or self or the self as possessing fabrications. With right view established, they do not see consciousness as the self or the self-possessing consciousness. This is called not being entangled with the world. We're in the middle of our Truth of Happiness Dhamma study this week. And this week's class was on the virtuous factors, referring to last week's classes on the wisdom factors of right view and right intention. In general, the Sangha in last night's class referred to that, but one of our Sangha members, Mary, referred to it in a particularly skillful way by describing how, as she's developing a deeper understanding of right view, how she sees that as the foundation for integrating the other factors of the Eightfold Path. And that's exactly what the Buddha is describing. As we start to develop right view. Now, of course, when we begin Dhamma practice, unless we're Khandana, we don't have fully developed right view. What we do have, if our mind is inclined towards awakening, we have the beginnings of establishing right view. We have to start where we are. And again, every day that we deepen our understanding and hold in mind the principles and the framework of the Eightfold Path, we're developing an auspicious day. And Buddha describes that here. Excuse me. The Buddha's words: to develop an auspicious day, remain present with your life as your life occurs. How do we do that? Well, beginning with a well-concentrated mind, established through shamatha vipassana meditation, the eighth factor of the Eightfold Path. Excuse me. Do not chase the past or project your thoughts to the future. Simple and direct teachings, but nearly impossible to do unless we have the framework of the Dhamma. Now, remember, the Buddha awakened to dependent origination, which states that it is ignorance of Four Noble Truths that leads to all manner of confusion, deluded thinking, and ongoing disappointing and unsatisfactory experiences, dukkha. Recognizing the nature of delusion and confusion is to further distraction in order to maintain that confusion and delusion, which is what we do in our interaction with the world from a deluded state. It takes a measure of concentration to even begin this practice. And this is where, again, where meditation comes in, proper meditation. Do not chase the past or project your thoughts on the future. Remain free of entanglements with the world and mindful of what is occurring. How do we remain free of entanglements with the world? We practice restraint and we stop using worldly events to describe ourselves in relation to the world. Be mindful of impermanence and uncertainty. Those that do so will have an auspicious day. I want to go back to that. Be mindful of impermanence and uncertainty. Uncertainty is simply another aspect of impermanence, because all things are impermanent. We can never know. We can never be certain what the next moment is going to bring, including our own deaths. The next moment might bring that. Take to the Dhamma. The last words of the Buddha is, decay is relentless. Strive diligently for your own salvation, meaning we need to do it now. It's the most important thing, and an auspicious day points us towards that. I'll go back one line and then conclude this. Those that do so will have an auspicious day. So says this peaceful sage. The Buddha clearly and directly describes for each and every one of us how we can have an auspicious day today and lay the framework and lay the foundation for an auspicious day for tomorrow, and to live our lives as a series of auspicious days, no matter what's occurring, simply by developing and living within the framework of the Eightfold Path. And then to get back to that, the question that kind of led to today's talk from some online students, what does it look like? It looks like a day that we are maintaining a mindful connection rooted in right view and supporting all the other factors of the Eightfold Path from a deepening concentration and seeing life's events, no matter what they are, whether they're things that we are initially accepting of or things that in the past might have been disturbing, we maintain a calm and peaceful mind because we understand the impermanence of all things, and we are no longer creating an identity over how we're feeling or how we're thinking or what's occurring to us. We're simply present with life occurs without any need for it to be any different. That is an auspicious day. So